Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Well, another political shakeup. This time, the federal NDP is tearing up its agreement supporting the Liberal minority government. How does this change things for the NDP, the Liberals, and the Conservatives? Are we heading for a snap election this fall? We'll get some analysis and take your calls. Plus, it is the first week of school. Let's all take a breath. Are you worried about burning out? How do you handle the pressure and avoid burnout for yourself or your child? That's in half an hour. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. As you heard in our newscast, the Vancouver Police Department says it's arrested a man in connection with two serious incidents in Vancouver's downtown that involved the death of one person this morning. The VPD and Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim will hold a press conference coming up at 1 o'clock. We will carry that for you live here on cbc.ca/BC and on our YouTube channel as well. Just go to CBC Vancouver. Again, that's coming up at 1 o'clock. Well, this morning, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh tweeted, "The deal is done." And he announced his party would end its supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals. And he said in a posted clip, "The Liberals have let people down. They don't deserve another chance." And he goes on to say there is another even bigger battle ahead, the threat of Pierre Poilievre and Conservative cuts. Now, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is speaking in Nanaimo this hour, and we'll bring you his comments as soon as they become available. He did post a statement on X this morning, and he called the announcement a media stunt. He used the term sellout Singh in reference to Jagmeet Singh and said that Singh refuses to state whether the NDP will vote with non-confidence to cause a carbon tax election at the first chance. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also spoke this morning soon after Singh made the announcement. Trudeau was at an event in Newfoundland, and he was asked by reporters whether it's time for Canadians to head to the polls.
Here today because we're delivering on school lunches and school food for thousands of kids across the province, and we're making investments that are going to be helping hundreds of thousands of kids across the country as people step up. These are the kinds of things that Canadians are looking for. As I traveled across the country this summer, people talk to me about making ends meet. They talk to me about the high cost of rent and the need for more housing. They talk to me about the environment and climate change and the impacts of it. And these are the things that we're focused on. I'll let others focus on politics, but I will point out that I really hope the NDP stays focused on how we can deliver for Canadians, as we have over the past years, rather than focusing on politics.
All right, now we're asking you on the open line, how does this change things for the NDP, the Liberals, and the Conservatives? What do you make of a potential snap federal election this year? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also send your thoughts by email, bctoday@cbc.ca. And joining me now is Sanjay Jaram, Senior Lecturer in Political Science at Simon Fraser University. Hi, Sanjay. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me back.
Is this a surprise?
It is a surprise because, he's made the comments that he's made, echo comments he's made in the past already. So it's not as if the ammo that he's using to justify a decision is particularly different than it has been sort of as he's criticized the Liberals the past year or so. So why now? I don't have a good answer to that right now. We have to sort of wait and see to hear more.
Well, perhaps let's take a step back and get our definitions right for our audience as well. What does it mean when the NDP says we are ending our supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals? What was that agreement and what does it mean to end it?
So supply and confidence simply means that barring any sort of cataclysmic event, the NDP would, in such a situation, the NDP would let Liberals know that they can't support a certain piece of legislation. Under the terms of the agreement, effectively, they agree to support the Liberal government on any issue that's not a competence issue. Mm-hmm. Now, they've effectively said they're no longer willing to do that. So effectively, anything is on the table, right? The NDP could decide to join the opposition parties in a non-competence motion at the next opportunity. So that's really the difference. I mean, in some ways it's more political than it is meaningful because obviously a supply and confidence agreement, excuse me, is quite different than a formal coalition.
Mm.
And so they always did have the capacity to sort of pull out, but it's more of that stability that the agreement provided, that the two expected they would work together to make sure the legislation would be supported by both parties before it came to pass, right? So the stories now, it's sort of the NDP is saying clearly we are no longer part of this agreement. We no longer are going to support the Liberals, and anything we do to support any piece of legislation we support of theirs is independent any kind of agreement, and simply because we believe in the principles of that particular legislation.
You said anything's on the table. So, I mean, what does this mean in terms of the stability of that Liberal minority government through the fall sitting? Could we be looking at an election sooner than expected?
We certainly could be looking at an election. It's no guarantees. Again, Singh, even in his sort of tertiary comments, was quite clear that he is not committing to anything. He's still holding his actual intentions, if he has any sort of deeper intentions, to himself. And so we really can't speculate that much further on that at this point. But there certainly could be an election. It strikes me as to why pull out of this agreement unless there was a sort of desire to go to an election, at least before the next mandated time, because otherwise the NDP was quite successful at negotiating certain concessions from the Liberal government throughout this time. Of course, they didn't get everything they wanted, but they got quite a bit. So it does strike anybody who sort of follows this as, well, what does he have in mind? And having an election before October 2025, I believe, would have been the mandate time, is definitely something it seems like he's thinking about. Why, given the polls, is another question.
That given the polls is very good. Is a very good question. All right, so let's take a look at on his post this morning on X, Jagmeet Singh seemed to kind of position the NDP as the choice for Canadians. Let's go through the polling numbers. What have they been telling us?
So effectively, the NDP has been pretty stable at 20%, and the Conservatives are well into majority territory, hitting on certain polls 41, 2, 3, and the Liberals are kind of eking just ahead of the NDP in most polls. So what we're seeing now, again, this is me just speculating here, and I think for a British Columbian audience, this might be interesting. Perhaps what he has in the back of his mind is something of what happened in British Columbian politics, where he believes perhaps this is the moment that the NDP becomes the center-left alternative, and the Liberal Party is essentially sort of completely wiped out, simply sullied by Justin Trudeau's name and the fact that 70% of Canadians do think he should resign. That's not insignificant, right? So maybe that numbers and other internal numbers that they have are giving the NDP a reason to believe that this is the time. We've said it before, but maybe they believe that they can be the alternative now that everybody on the sort of progressive side of the voting spectrum would coalesce around the NDP rather than splitting the vote, or rather than going to the Liberals as has been in the past.
Sanjay, I know I have to let you go, but you just touched on what's been happening in BC politics over the last week, and the shakeup there. There was also the change in the Democratic Party south of the border. I mean, what do you make of all these kinds of changes? What does it tell us about our political landscape right now?
That it's unstable, that it's shifting, but there's certainly trends that we can see. If we compare, let's say, what happened in British Columbia to what's going on federally, there's certainly an appetite for a very defined, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, a new kind of right ideology that combines populism with sort of more traditional right-wing politics, and we see that with the surge of the Conservative Party in BC and at the federal level. Now here, what we have is, because in BC we had two parties on the right, and one has effectively successfully, passed and taken the mantle from the other one, and I think that's what they have in mind. Given what they're doing here, is that they have that in mind. Otherwise, there's really no other way for them to even form the official opposition unless they can completely supplant the Liberals on the center left. And just to answer your question, just to finish on that, I do think that the sort of two-party sort of dynamic is something that we're seeing sort of shake out in most jurisdictions. It's unlike this moment. We're not seeing a whole lot of jurisdictions, in Canada or elsewhere, where multiple parties, especially in the Anglosphere, we're not seeing a lot of politics done in a nuanced way that supports sort of 3 or 4 parties, where people can kind of distinguish and see the differences between sort of 2 parties on the right and 2 parties on the left. What we're seeing is this sort of kind of gravitation towards 2 parties and sort of distinct, clear options with a sort of populist right and a more clear progressive oriented on social issues and on the economy left. And that seems to be what is sort of attracting people, or at least whether the dynamic between leaders and followers is hard to completely tease out, but that seems to be where we're going.
Really interesting and great to hear from you. Thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Take care.
Sanjay Jaram is Senior Political Science Lecturer at SFU. And we're asking you for your reaction. The news this morning that and the NDP is going to tear up its governance agreement, its confidence and supply agreement with the Liberal government. Essentially, that's the agreement that has enabled it to prop up or support the Liberals' minority government. It was meant to run until June 2025. This morning, Jagmeet Singh at around 10 o'clock this morning posted on X that the deal was done, as he said. And there has been some reaction from Justin Trudeau being asked about this morning. And he says this is, he's focusing on the policies that he's been announcing and not the politics. We're going to hear as well from Pierre Poilievre. He is speaking in Nanaimo right now. And so we're waiting for the comments from him. I'll bring that to you live. We'll bring that to you as soon as we can, as soon as it's sent over to us. Let's go to our open line now. We are asking you for your reaction. How does this change things for the federal parties? And what do you make of that potential snap election this year, this fall or winter? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. By email, it's bctoday@cbc.ca. John sent us an email. Poilievre calls on Singh to end the supply and confidence agreements last week. Today, Singh ends the supply and confidence agreement. Says plans were in place 2 weeks ago. Today, Poilievre calls Singh's announcement a media stunt. Poilievre flip-flops like a fish out of water. Joanne writes, too little, too late. Jagmeet Singh and his party lost the trust of Canadians. In the past 3 years, middle-class and working-class families have dramatically changed for the worse. The NDP allowed this to happen while using daycare, dental care, and pharmacare, which only targets our lowest earners, while working-class families are paying higher and higher taxes. Ellen writes, this is going to be a catastrophe for Canada. If the government falls, the Conservatives will likely form the next government. Poilievre and his party are unsuitable for government and are against all our values. Very disappointed that the NDP could not hang in a bit longer. Ellen, Joanne, and John, thank you for your emails. bctoday@cbc.ca. Love to hear from you on the open line as well. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Doug is on the line from Surrey. Hi, Doug. What do you make of this announcement? What does it change?
It's not good. I'm a pensioner. I remember when the Stephen Harper item was running the country, well, he was taking instructions from the back room that it was time that he had himself he had a majority government. He could do whatever he wanted, and he did. He informed us short time, I think it was a couple of months before I was to come up to 65, that I would have to work until 67 to get a full pension because the investments, according to him, weren't up to snuff. I found out later that was a pack of lies. That they were doing just fine, thank you very much. Stephen Harper's opinion didn't count for anything. And Poilievre is under the same thumb from the back room that Stephen Harper was. They knew that they had better do what they were told to do, or their occupation would be gone, snap, fast, boom, gone. That would be it. You don't go against the backroom power boys that are more worried about their stock options than they are about the little people that they sit on. And but I look at this and I think, okay, fine. So what else is new? When the ratings are good, Poilievre will try and milk that cow for everything it's worth. And Trudeau is languishing for whatever reason. And Singh is the linchpin. And
What do you make of, you're talking about union work, and one of the comments from Jagmeet Singh this morning was that Justin Trudeau has proven again and again, he posted, that he will always cave to corporate greed. What are your thoughts on how the Liberal government has handled so many, labor issues over the last year or two, including the railway work stoppage, in which the parties were forced into binding arbitration?
I see. I used to work at BC Rail before Gordon Campbell kneecapped us all, and I've suffered. At Greyhound, I was in a union, and they did very well for me. I ended up getting a half-decent contract at the end, even though it was the same rate of pay that I would have been making 20 years ago at Air Canada. And it's funny how they forced the chaps at CNCP and KC all back to work almost as fast as they were out on the bricks. And Poilievre's in the other day on the TV like he's the best friend the union's ever had, and he was as phony as a $3 bill. And it's like everything else. I suspect that there was an election coming, because when Poilievre comes over and wants to act like he's a friend of any union, I thought, you're as phony as a $3 bill. You stick out like a beacon in
Doug,
the black hole of Calcutta.
there is an election coming. The question is when, right? Doug, thank you very much for your call from Surrey. We're asking you, what do you make of that potential snap election this year, sooner than the mandated date next October? This would be a federal election. Of course, we have a provincial election coming up. And if you're watching United States politics, there is a U.S. election coming up this fall, too. So what do you make of a snap federal election here in Canada? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Our political science lecturer guest, Sanjay Jaram, said that's not necessarily going to happen. But given the NDP pulling out of this agreement, there is that instability coming to the fall sitting. Doug is on the line now in Surrey. Hi, Doug. Oh, pardon me. Carlos is on the line in Kitimat. We've said goodbye to Doug. Thanks for your call, Doug. Hi, Carlos.
Hello.
Hi. What are your thoughts? What was your reaction when you heard the announcement?
I'm disappointed in Jagmeet Singh because the BC province of BC is having an election, and we're going to have a federal election. Holy smokes! I mean, I think people are going to be upset with that because of.
You think they're going to be fatigued?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it would be a good idea, but maybe wait a little bit longer, because, like you say, fatigue. Exactly. So that's my opinion. But thank you so much, and we'll enjoy the program.
Yeah, great to hear from you, Carlos. Thank you. And Rhonda is joining us now from Parksville. What do you think of this announcement from the NDP today, Rhonda?
I don't like the timing at all. I think it's very irresponsible, being that we already have an October election in British Columbia. And not only that, right now, COVID numbers are escalating. That's why I think it's totally irresponsible. Can you imagine the COVID numbers after people go to the polls?
There has been some increase in those COVID numbers.
Sure has.
Rhonda, thank you very much. And this was a discussion back in 2021 here in BC, wasn't it? With regard to our election as well, 2020. That's Rhonda joining us from Parksville. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the potential for a snap election this fall or winter in Canada, federal election? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And Bernadette wrote us an email. And she writes, I have lost confidence in this government. The mess we find Canada in is because of their incompetence. Everything is affected by the immigration policy, which has not prepared for the numbers, in neglect to building housing and all the other infrastructure needed to support the new population increase, which is huge. Roman writes, here are my humble thoughts on this. What actual information is in place to help voters to cast an informed vote? What are the prioritized platform issues available from any party? What matters to us voters besides who we like or don't like? Is this becoming a popularity contest as it appears to be for our neighbors to the south? Thank you for your emails. And let's go back to our callers now. David is on the line in Vancouver. Hi, David. What's your reaction to another political shakeup?
I just think it was Singh calling Poilievre's bluff. I don't think the NDP has any intention at all of supporting any motion that is brought forward in the House of Commons to dissolve Parliament. And I think Poilievre's reaction today was just it. He called it a joke almost. There's just too much
A media stunt is what he called it. Yeah.
Economically to call an election. I mean, interest rates are falling. We're talking by the end of the year and probably into the new year, 1 full percentage point. Having worked for government at senior level, I can't see them going full.
Okay. David, thank you for weighing in on this.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You take care. That's David in Vancouver. And we are waiting to hear comment from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who is in Nanaimo today and speaking to reporters scheduled for this hour. And he is now in front of the crowd. So we'll take a look at the footage from there and get you his comments as soon as we can. Taking your reaction right now, though, on the open line as well. What are your thoughts on Jagmeet Singh announcing today that the NDP would end its confidence and supply agreement with the Liberals? And what does it change? How does it change things for each of the federal parties? And what do you make of the potential for fall or winter federal election? Jagger is calling from Gibsons. Hi, Jagger.
Hi. I'm thinking about how it's going to have, if the election BC and federally are at the same time, the trickle-down effect, since the provincial NDP is much more popular than the federal. I think Jagmeet's hoping that it probably helps him a bit if they have the election at the same time. But I think the bigger effect will be that it hurts the provincial NDP, since the federal NDP is so much more unpopular.
The name association.
Yeah. I think the name association, and then even bigger with the BC Conservatives, which are a completely different party from the federal, but we've already seen that they've been really helped by the federal party's success. And I think that will possibly give them a much better shot at winning.
Yeah, Jagger, really interesting points. And of course, we know that the name recognition issue played a factor into the BC Liberals changing their name to BC United. And that, of course, has ended with BC United's campaign being suspended, being ended essentially by leader Kevin Falcon, who said he was stepping down and would now support the Conservatives. So yeah, the role of these parties' names and what impact it has when they're associated with the federal parties or the provincial parties for that matter. Really interesting point there, Jagger. Thank you very much. It is 12:29. We are waiting for that comment from Pierre Poilievre and get that to you as soon as we can. Lots of coverage on this, of course, throughout the day here on CBC. So you can watch us online on CBC television tonight on our newscast, and as well throughout the day on CBC Radio 1. Roz, let's squeeze in one last call from Roz in Ottawa. I don't have a lot of time, Roz, but do go ahead.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. My concern is that I'm seeing a lot of the same tactics that is going on in the States. Poilievre especially, he's using a lot of the same tactics that Trump's using. You know, the never answering the question, the whataboutism. You ask him, well, what about this? Well, what about that over there? Okay, all of these are good things, but let's answer the question. So he just attacks. He trolls people. He calls them names. There's no policy. So, you know, he's saying to us that he is the better choice. He's much better than Trudeau. But he's not giving us any reasons why, other than, look, I can behave like a buffoon. And, I think that he thinks that Canadians are stupid. And we're not that stupid. I think we can agree that everything is not going well. We want to see the Liberals to actually show us, okay, you messed it up. How are you going to fix it?
Okay.
And tell us that.
Looking for the policies.
Don't treat us like, fifth graders.
Looking for the policies. Roz, thank you very much. We're going to squeeze in Laura as a final call here from Port Coquitlam. Lots of comments on this right now. Hi, Laura. What do you think of this announcement from the NDP?
Hi, I think it's really good news, actually. I think it's good to see the NDP stand apart from the Liberals. And they're the only party, honestly, that makes me feel hopeful about the future of Canada. They've done a lot of important things to bring down the cost of living for Canadians. But unfortunately, the Liberals have taken credit for it.
But they can't now. I mean, what does this mean for the continuation and the completion of those programs, like the dental program, for example, that still need to be completed?
Yeah, hopefully those will be completed, and maybe there will be more good things to come. But I guess it's a bit of a case-by-case basis that we will proceed with in the future.
That is what is before the NDP now, is voting whether it decides to vote on a case-by-case basis with the Liberals as well. Laura, good to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's Laura in Port Coquitlam. Lots of opinions on this, differing opinions on this today. Thanks so much for your thoughts. And if you want to email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. It is 12:31 now, Pacific time. This is BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks for being with us. And we will carry live for you the press conference that's being held by the Vancouver Police Department, along with Mayor Ken Sim, regarding the incidents this morning in downtown Vancouver that involved the death of one person. More details coming up right now in your CBC News Update. And here's Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. Vancouver police say a man is dead and another person had their hands severed after a pair of unprovoked stranger attacks. The separate assaults happened between 7:30 and 7:45 this morning. Officers were seen performing CPR on a person lying on the ground on the Queen Elizabeth Theatre Plaza just across the street from here. The body is now covered and many of the roads around the theatre are behind police tape. A suspect is in custody. As we've been hearing on the show, the federal NDP leader says he's ending the supply and confidence deal his party made with the federal Liberals. Jagmeet Singh says the Trudeau government has let people down and doesn't deserve another chance from Canadians. And veteran MLA Mike Bernier will run as an independent in the fall provincial election after several other former BC United candidates announced yesterday they were running with the Conservatives. Bernier has represented Peace River South since 2013 and is a former provincial education minister. And now the forecast on the North Coast, mainly sunny this afternoon with a high of 18. Highs reaching 22 with sunshine in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, sunny with local smoke and a high of 22 as well. Highs all the way up to 33 and sunny in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, lots of sunshine with a high of 31. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, warm and sunny this afternoon with highs up to 27 inland. That's your CBC News Update from Vancouver.
Rob, thank you very much. That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And yes, we will be covering the Vancouver Police Department news conference on the serious attacks in downtown Vancouver this morning. And that press conference will be held right after our program coming up at 1 o'clock, but we'll carry it live for you. You can watch it live on our website, cbc.ca/BC. You can also join our YouTube live stream. You can join us right now. Just to go to YouTube and search for CBC Vancouver. Right now, we do have the comments from Pierre Poilievre. The Conservative leader is in Nanaimo today, and this after NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announced this morning the termination of the supply and confidence agreement his party made with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's minority Liberal government. Now, Poilievre referred to Singh as, quote, sellout Singh, saying he hasn't done enough.
The sellout Singh stunt today, where he came out and claimed that he was wrong, that the coalition was a bad, costly idea, but he refuses to commit to voting for a carbon tax election. So my message to sellout Singh is this. If you're serious about ending your costly carbon tax coalition with Trudeau, then commit today to voting for a carbon tax election at the earliest confidence vote in the House of Commons.
That is Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre speaking in Nanaimo this hour. And we have been covering this for you. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announcing that his party would be ending its confidence and supply agreement with Justin Trudeau's Liberals. They're not an official coalition. This was an agreement that they made. And it was slated to run until next June. But as you've been hearing, Jagmeet Singh ended the deal today. Pamela wrote us an email too. Pierre Poilievre is courting the people that are traditionally NDP voters, so I don't think Jagmeet Singh had any choice based on the government supporting binding arbitration for the rails, the job action when it came to the railways. And she goes on to write, I actually think the NDP will use this as an opportunity to get perhaps even more deals with the Liberals and not force an early election. Minority governments can actually be the best way for Canadians to prosper. It's so unfortunate that we never got proportional representation. Pamela, thanks for your thoughts as well. Again, the big political news of the day, the NDP ending its governance agreement, its confidence and supply agreement with the Liberals. And we're taking your emails as well. If you'd like to let us know your thoughts, bctoday@cbc.ca. Okay, it is midweek this week in September, of course, back to school week, and it is getting busy, right? We're all making plans for how we can handle all the competing demands as things ramp up. There's school, work, everything else, kids. Rising stress levels have had a huge impact, and so we're looking into the topic of burnout. And we want to hear from you. Are you worried about dealing with burnout as we head into a new school year or as things ramp up at work? What helps you prevent burnout for yourself or your kids? You can call us now, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And you can also hit pound 690 on your phone if you like. If you want to email us, we are at bctoday@cbc.ca. And joining me now is Christy Nicol, who's a burnout recovery specialist and a corporate wellness coach. Hi there. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, it's great to be here.
I should say, with all the busyness of the last week as well, politically, there may be burnout as well for people just taking in all this news. How big of an issue is burnout, whether it's school or work or looking at the news run, just in society around us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now, burnout is actually at an all-time high. 3 out of 4 individuals may be experiencing burnout, some, if not all the time. And just to your point, with the kind of global stressors that are all around us, it's just compounding the complexities of our lives with the simple things like back to school and managing our professional lives. So there's lots of different layers that are in our lives at this moment, and it's certainly compounding the burnout problem.
And how do we know we are burning out? What are the signs?
Yeah, signs and symptoms. So there's sort of 3 key distinctions to burnout itself. So number 1 is we're starting to feel a sense of kind of emotional exhaustion. We're just really feeling that difficulty in caring. We're going to feel some sense of what's called depersonalization. So we're a bit at the end of our empathy, a little maybe short fused, a little more irritable. And then we also can start to sense this sensation of like a decreased sense of accomplishment. So where in our professional lives or our parenting or whatever the thing is that we're really quite good at, we start to feel less so or less capable and less confident. So those 3 are the 3 kind of key signs that we're heading in the direction of burnout. And we may be experiencing it in our bodies as well as just those sort of stress related sensations in our bodies, or just feeling low energy and not as capable.
Okay, maybe a little bit of a faster heartbeat.
Faster heartbeat, yeah. So
Yeah.
those physiological signs like that, my blood pressure, my heart rate, I'm not breathing well. Those certain things that are very physiological to our body are just some key indicators that we're in more of an exhaustion and burnt out state.
Well, we'll put out the numbers as well. We're asking people, are you worried about burnout as we head into the busier, part of the year as school gets going, work gets busier? You can let us know. And what are your strategies for preventing yourself getting burnt out? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or pound 690 on your cell phone. My guest is Christy Nicol, a burnout recovery specialist and a corporate wellness coach. And what is it about this time of year? What do you notice goes on as people head into the fall season and the new school year?
Absolutely. I think the new year, September, it's a lot like that kind of that January. It's that all this energy back to school. We've come off a period of having more flexibility in our schedules.
Right.
And all of a sudden we have to really take the time to look at the schedule because this is the time of year where there are a lot of demands on our time.
Ah,
There's schedules that we have to adhere to. There's certain things that we can't get out of. We have to get our kids to school if we have kids. We have to be there at a certain time,
yeah.
right? There's just a lot less flexibility, and then meal planning comes into place. Managing, what's going on in our child's lives and their personal
Yeah.
circumstances. On top of which, we still have our own jobs, our businesses, our professional lives that we're managing. And we all of a sudden have to fit it into the same 24-hour period, right, as everybody else. And we're like, how am I going to get this done?
Yes, absolutely. You're speaking right to me, Chrissy. At my home, I have a board, a whiteboard in my kitchen, just lining up what needs to be done, what are the activities for the week. And I have noticed things. It's a lot busier. There's a lot more black on on that board this week for sure. A lot more obligations, and so. How can we prevent this? We wanted to have this conversation at the start of the year so we can help people try and avoid actually getting to that point where they're feeling the burnout, the exhaustion, and the shorter fuse and those physical symptoms as well. What can we do to prevent that in our lives?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things to focus on. And so we want to simplify, of course, as much as we possibly can and really look at our lives and what we have the most influence over, right? So when we look at everything that's coming up in the calendar, we want to look at what is our capacity to handle all of the different things. What is your personal energy? Where are you at right now? And then when you
Mm,
look at that schedule, it's really looking at it and understanding what could I let go of? Where could I ask for some help? Or what maybe boundaries do I need to put in place to protect my time so that I don't feel like I'm constantly go, 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 go. And
mm,
so I think sometimes we it's such great energy the fall, right? And we start saying yes to all the things. But if we just take a moment and we press that pause button, we take a moment, we step back, and first we ask ourselves, where am I going to get some body first time? Because when it comes to burnout, there's something that's really useful to understand. We have our body's physiological stress cycle that is in response to the stressors around us, but that's separate to those stressors. So if we take the time to complete our body's physiological stress cycle through some body first movement, breathing, those are the sorts of things that can help to calm our system
mm.
so we feel more capable. So we want to kind of look at that schedule and say, okay, body first, I call it body first, business second. And so that's where can I schedule time for me, my body to move, to breathe, to take that pause so that I have more capacity and I'm completing my body's stress cycle. And then from that, what can I add in? And maybe what needs to go, or where can I ask for some help? What could I delegate out?
Yeah, it's really prioritizing yourself. What if that means we have to say no? How can we approach that? You're
I
smiling.
know, the dreaded no, right? No, yeah, exactly. Some of that, okay, I fully understand, and I hear it a lot with the clients that I work with. It's that, oh, but I don't want to say no. I don't want to
Right.
disappoint others, right? I don't want to let others down. I don't want people to perceive me as not capable. And so all of that kind of factors in. And so we end up saying yes when really we're like, ooh, that doesn't really fit what's
Mm,
within my priorities. So sometimes it's simply we need to know the language. We don't actually know what the language is. And it can be a simple, I call it the 3-step process or the wings of no. Is that ability to simply say, thank you so much for thinking of me, or I appreciate the offer. I'm not available. And that's where we feel like compelled to want to provide explanation or excuses, but we really don't have to. We can
Okay.
simply say, right, I'm not available, or that's not a fit for me right now. And then if we would like, we can provide a solution. So it could be something as simple as saying, thank you so much for thinking of me. I'm not available, or that's not a fit right now. Have you considered asking Sally? So, do you know what I mean?
I'm going to make someone else put this on someone else's plate.
Exactly.
Oh, dear.
It could be that we could pass it, or it could be something like if you're in a professional circumstance and you just don't have capacity for taking on another client or something, you could just be simply giving a referral to someone else.
Right.
But this is that idea where we don't necessarily have to. The solution doesn't have to be there. But if one makes sense and you're not going to then dump it onto someone else's plate and get them burnt out, then it's really okay to do that. And it's simply, I think what we want to understand is it's okay to say no, and people won't think really poorly of us. I think we perceive that they will, but they'll simply move on and find the next solution.
Yeah, it's a skill, isn't it, that you acquire, and you have to make it a habit. You sort of have to nurture it as a habit, and then become comfortable with just saying, no, these are my boundaries. We are talking about burnout. And as we head into the busier time of year, the start of the school year, work tends to ramp up. The summer vacation is over. Your more flexible schedule, that's a thing of the past now. We're asking you, do you worry about burnout for yourself, your child? And what are your strategies for avoiding burnout? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone as well. And Chris is calling from Victoria. Hi, Chris. Welcome.
Thanks, Michelle. How are you today?
I am fine. I've checked in, and I think I'm doing okay for today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. I definitely like and appreciate everything your guest is sharing with regards to kind of strategies to reduce burnout. And burnout's a huge thing. I've seen it happen to people close to me in my life, and it's really, really challenging when it happens. It results in people getting sick way more easily and just having less capacity to be able to deal with all the important things that are going on in life right now. But I also, I think that there are some really simple, clear strategies that you can use to be able to help prevent burnout that, I think some people just don't prioritize it. And then based on not prioritizing it, the burnout happens. Things, very simple things like, a 5-minute meditation practice daily at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, 5 minutes worth of breath work, 10 minutes worth of, simple exercise. All these kinds of things they're not incredibly time consuming, but when people think about doing them, say, how can I fit this into my day? And it's just making that priority to get that at the beginning of your day, the end of your day. And if you can do that with some kind of consistency, then I think it really can help, hugely towards, reducing the severity or even any level of burnout at all.
Wow. Is this something you do yourself then, Chris?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I try my best to be active, 4 or 5 days a week in some capacity at least. And then, every morning I have a gratitude practice where I sit for 10 minutes and meditate on the things that I'm grateful for and my intentions for the day. And, it doesn't take a whole lot of time, but I find that, I don't have any issues with burnout. I don't necessarily think that that's completely related to that, but I'm sure all those things help. And, I think that there's strategies that anyone can implement without too much trouble.
You mentioned that you have seen close friends go through burnout. Have you talked to them about that, or have you been able to give them some of this advice as well?
Yeah, basically, one main person in my life who has dealt with it, I check in with them when I see them in the process of burning out, and, in a very loving way, I say, I see this happening to you right now. Where are you at with your daily meditation practice? Have you been doing that? How are your exercise routines? Have you been having a chance to do that consistently? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no to those things. And, if I can then, once again, in a loving way, supportive way, encourage them to get back into those routines, a lot of times, that provides at least a certain level of help to deal with it.
Yeah, what a great point, Chris. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
That's Chris in Victoria. Christy, what a really interesting point and quite important, because sometimes when you're mired in that hectic schedule and perhaps not noticing that you are starting to feel the effects of burnout, how important is it for others to just look out for people around them?
It's hugely important. And I really want to appreciate what Chris brought up. There was a couple of things there. Number one is, and I think this is important for people to understand, taking care of yourself is not going to be perfect, especially at this time of year going back to school and all of the other things. So if we can give ourselves permission to do our best, but it's like the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you're going to eat well, 20% of the time you're just not. 80% of the time you might do that meditation, 20% you're not, and that's okay. It's about messy action and taking that action. But also what happens, it's so important for people to reach out and connect. Connection is actually one of the ways we complete the stress cycle. So you just connecting with someone you're concerned about is so helpful. But the other thing is, it's really helpful for the person, because biologically and physiologically, what's going on is when we're in a very stressed state, our amygdala, our stress response, is firing. And we're kind of in what we would call a fight, flight, or a freeze mode. And that's when we don't have a lot of blood flow to that prefrontal cortex where all the solutions and thought lay. So we can't, in those moments when that amygdala is firing, when we're in that stress response, we actually have very minimal capacity to think of those solutions. So sometimes it's as simple as like writing out those things that do really work well for you and having it be visible, because in those moments of stress, I guarantee you might forget, because it's the way the brain is functioning in that moment. It can't find the solution. And if it's not simple, it's just going to keep doing what it's doing, because to think of doing something different would take too much effort and work.
Right. Yes, the solution itself kind of poses a problem.
Yeah, it seems it's such a simple solution, but when we're in that state of fight or flight or freeze, we can't find that solution. We can't reach for it in that moment. So someone reaching out and reminding you can be very powerful.
What a clear way of describing that. Now, you also work as a corporate wellness coach. What should employers be doing, or schools, to try and alleviate that pressure?
That's right. So I think, within organizations and companies, one of the things that I do is I help employees learn how to complete their body's physiological stress cycle, because I think that's what we need to know how to do.
What does that mean? What does it mean, by the way, when you say complete the physiological stress cycle?
So, for example, let's say we have some stressors. We have the back to school. We have getting, kids to their scheduled events. Maybe they're in soccer, and that's taking up all your weekend, and all of the different things, and then all of the global news around us, all of those things, right? So we can start to feel our body can go into a stress cycle. So that means our heart rate might elevate. Our blood pressure might go up a little bit. Our breath rate might go up. We might sort of do that short, shallow breathing, and our body, our neck gets tight, our stomach gets tight. All of those things start to happen in response to the stressors and the things happening around us, those external events. However, we can actually bring our body physiologically back into balance. We can regulate the heart rate. We can regulate our breath cycle by doing some of those simple things like Chris spoke about. We can take that 5 minutes to do a meditation if that's our thing. We can simply close down our monitor for 90 seconds and put our hands on the rib cage and take 3 full breaths, just lengthening the inhale and lengthening the exhale. Those things start to send a signal to our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest system. And that starts to regulate and create what we call homeostasis, or balance inside of our body. The heart rate starts to come down, blood pressure decreases, breath rate normalizes. And so if we can integrate little pockets of this throughout our day, that just helps us to manage all of this so much more effortlessly. And when we're feeling more physiologically balanced, we're more likely to be able to say that no that we need to, instead of just that default reactive, like, I feel so stressed. Okay, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, carry on.
Right.
And then we're like, and then we're in the cycle. So with the employees and the corporations and organizations, I'm trying to help them from the start. Here's the stress cycle. Here's really powerful and simple things that you can be doing within your workday to complete this, so that even when you arrive home, you don't feel that kind of exhaustion from the day or depletion, but you have some energy to, go out and watch that soccer game or go to your own dance class or whatever that thing is. Um, because you know how to complete that cycle in the body, doing simple things, and therefore you feel more capable and confident. You're meeting deadlines at work. And as a result, with employers being able to help their employees know how to do this, it just overall helps the whole organization.
Wow, I feel just a bit more relaxed just having talked to you. And I love your very concrete advice, right? Just cover your monitor for a couple of minutes. I think that makes such a difference for me. Put down your phone for a little while, and I notice the difference that has with me, because then it's just less input and less output on my part as well. Just sitting and just being for a few moments. It's so rare these days. Christy, I really appreciate speaking to you. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me.
That's Christy Nickel. She's a burnout recovery specialist and a corporate wellness coach. Love to hear your stories. Have you experienced burnout? How did you deal with it? How did you get out of it? And do you worry about having to deal with burnout as the school year gets busy, as work gets more hectic? You can email us as well, bctoday@cbc.ca. Well, that is it for our show here on radio right now. And we are coming back, however, on our website, cbc.ca/BC, and as well on YouTube, CBC Vancouver. You can tune in to us there to see the news conference from the Vancouver Police Department, Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim, regarding the serious incidents in downtown Vancouver this morning. Thanks for listening. Good afternoon. You're with CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks very much for being with us. We're just a few moments away from a Vancouver police press conference addressing violent incidents in downtown Vancouver this morning. Now, a warning, the details involved in this story may be upsetting to some people, so please do take care. One man is dead and another sent to hospital after his hand was severed after what investigators believe to be random stranger attacks that took place in 2 different locations in Vancouver. Now, here to give us more details is CBC reporter Yasmin Ranea. Yasmin, hello. Thanks so much for being here.
Hello.
You got to the scene quite quickly this morning. Can you just describe what you saw as you arrived?
Yeah, absolutely, Michelle. 2 dramatic attacks just minutes apart. So just before 7:40, near Cathedral Square, as people are on their morning commutes, it's busy here in the downtown core. Police say they found a man in his 50s who had been attacked with a knife. He was bleeding from his head and he had a severed hand. Police saying he was sent to hospital and is expected to survive. Then less than 10 minutes later at West Georgia and Hamilton Street at the Queen Elizabeth Theater, police found another man attacked. I was actually on scene as police were setting up the white evidence tent and cordoning off the square. At first, CBC saw officers that were giving the man CPR, trying to save his life as he was lying on the ground. Then soon after, we saw a pool of blood that was under his body, and then his body was covered. So police say his identity and age have not yet been released. While investigators were collecting evidence from these 2 crime scenes, patrol officers got images of the suspect, and they confirmed that the 2 incidents were actually linked, and they began searching for this suspect, and they found him on Habitat Island near Olympic Village. So they say they got reports of a man who was behaving erratically, that he had approached a stranger and began yelling at him. And we don't know the suspect's name yet, but we know that he is 34 years old, according to police, and is from White Rock, and he's been taken into custody. He's now at the Vancouver jail, and investigators are treating this as unprovoked stranger attacks. Police say they believe that neither victim knew the suspect. And VPD Chief Constable Adam Palmer, who we'll hear from later, he says that, they were completely random attacks. He says attacks like these shake the city's sense of comfort and safety. And he says they don't have all the answers yet as to why this happened as they continue to investigate.
Yasmin, thank you very much. That's CBC reporter Yasmin Ranea. Now, we are waiting for this press conference with Vancouver Police Chief Adam Palmer, as well as Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim to begin. We are learning now that the press conference is delayed. We don't have an update as to when this press conference will start. We will continue to follow the story throughout the day, of course, and on our website. And again, just to recap, Vancouver police have arrested a man in connection with 2 attacks in the downtown core. And these are attacks which left 1 man dead and another with injuries, life-altering injuries. Now, Vancouver police say they're treating these incidents as unprovoked stranger attacks. They were first called, officers were first called and responded at 7:38 a.m. today. You may have heard the reports of disruptions to the morning commute, and that there was an incident in downtown at the Queen Elizabeth Plaza. And that news unfolded, and we heard more from the Vancouver police when it came to what happened here. Shortly after 9 a.m., as you heard from Yasmin, officers located a suspect on Habitat Island near Olympic Village. We are awaiting a press conference again with the VPD Chief Adam Palmer and as well Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim to give us an update on these cases. Stay tuned to CBC. Again, on our website, cbc.ca/BC, on YouTube as well. Just search for CBC Vancouver. This is BC Today, an extended version in order to bring you live a Vancouver Police press conference that is scheduled to begin in just a few minutes from now, again addressing the violent incidents in downtown Vancouver this morning. And another top story that we were covering on our program today on BC Today is political news on the federal front. The NDP saying it is tearing up its governance agreement, its confidence and supply agreement with the Liberals. And this was the agreement that was supporting the minority Liberal government. A lot of calls on this in our last hour and some emails as well. Kathy writes, I'm so tired of hearing that everything is broken. I was watching Polyev in Nanaimo. He has nothing to say other than there's nothing good in Canada. Justin Trudeau is responsible for all of society's ills, and Jagmeet Singh has sold us down the river. It is exhausting. Do Canadians have short memories? Remember the years of Stephen Harper, OMG catchphrases over and over. Diane writes, I have 3 things to say. Singh not giving the Prime Minister more than an hour's notice of him breaking the agreement says something about his ethics. Can you imagine any other partnership dissolving this way? And his reasons are vague and do not address specific concerns that led to a decision. She also writes, an early election will ruin what little remaining chances the Liberals might have federally. I believe as long as Justin Trudeau is leading the party will lose. Polls are clear. People want a new Liberal leader. Without one, I predict their chances are very poor and now poorer. And 3, she writes, Pierre Poilievre is no statesman. He's not worthy of governing Canada, in my view. And we also have some more emails here. Christian writes from Salt Spring Island, elections have a real impact on citizens, especially at a time when many politicians ignore facts and try to exploit people who are exposed to divisive, misleading information. The fact that it now looks like the U.S., federal and provincial elections could somewhat be juxtaposed can only aggravate the negative impact that these campaigns would have on their own. I worry as much about the outcome of these elections as the impact they will have on our collective psyche and well-being. Christian, thank you for that. And another email now from Wes, who's writing us from Invermere. Wes writes, great news to hear that Jagmeet Singh is pulling out of the agreement with the Trudeau/Freeland Liberal government, but I don't trust Jagmeet Singh. He has yet to actually vote against the Trudeau-Freeland government. And Wes writes, too little too late. The damage the present government has done to Canadians and Canada over the past 9.5 years has been tremendous. Easily the most incompetent and corrupt government in Canadian history, Jagmeet is just as responsible. My hope is that the next federal election, the federal NDP will be able to hold their caucus meetings in a broom closet because that's what they deserve. That's coming from Wes in Invermere. And thanks very much for all of your emails. bctoday@cbc.ca. Of course, if you want to comment on the federal political news and the NDP ending its agreement with the Liberal government, we are awaiting that press conference by the Vancouver Police Department.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks very
We
much
take
for
you
your
live now
patience. It's
to the
been a
Vancouver
busy
Police.
morning and into the afternoon. Chief Constable Adam Palmer, followed by Mayor Ken Sim, will join you here at the podium momentarily to provide an update on today's events. Following their update and their comments, we'll do a moderated Q&A. I will moderate that Q&A. My ask for you all is to each ask, allow your colleagues to ask a question before you ask a follow-up question, and we'll try to get through as much as we can. Okay? Chief Palmer.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everybody. This morning, two very violent, serious attacks occurred in our city, resulting in the death of one innocent person and significant life-altering injuries to another. This marks our city's 9th homicide of 2024. Attacks like these shake our collective sense of comfort and safety, and I am grateful that a suspect was quickly taken into custody by our VPD officers. Although it will take time before we have all the answers, I can tell you that it does not appear that either victim knew the suspect, and we believe these attacks were completely random stranger attacks. These investigations are in their earliest stages, and there are still many details we either don't know or I am unable to share with you at this time. However, I am here today, joined by Mayor Ken Sim, to share what we can and to answer questions about these tragic crimes. I'm also joined by Deputy Chief Howard Chow, who commands our Operations Division, and Deputy Chief Fiona Wilson, who commands our Investigation Division. I want to recognize Councillors Peter Meisner and Mike Claassen, who are also here with us today. VPD officers responded at 7:38 a.m. to reports of a man who had been attacked near Cathedral Square, which is at Richard Street and Dunsmuir. Officers found a 56-year-old man who had been attacked with a knife. He was bleeding from the head and had suffered a completely severed hand. The man was taken to hospital for emergency treatment and is expected to survive. Approximately 8 minutes later at 7:46 a.m., VPD officers were called to West Georgia and Hamilton Street, which is a couple of blocks away from the first call, after a second man was attacked. Despite efforts to save his life, the man died at the scene. The victim's identity and age have not been confirmed, but he appears to be approximately 70 years old. Investigators and members of the VPD Victim Services Unit are currently in the process of confirming this man's identity and informing family members next of kin of his passing. I want to offer my heartfelt condolences to the victim who survived and the families and loved ones of both of these victims of these serious crimes that occurred today here in Vancouver. While investigators from VPD's Major Crime, Homicide Unit, and Forensic Identification Unit began collecting evidence from the two crime scenes, VPD patrol officers obtained images of the suspect, confirmed that the two incidents were linked, and began searching for the suspect. Shortly after 9 a.m., officers located the suspect on Habitat Island near the Olympic Village. That's that small island at the north foot of Columbia Street, adjacent to Hinge Park. They responded to reports of a man behaving erratically who had approached a stranger who was our reportee and began yelling at him. The suspect, who we subsequently arrested, is a 34-year-old White Rock resident. He was taken into custody by members of our emergency response team and patrol officers with assistance from a VPD drone pilot. The suspect is currently at the Vancouver Police Jail. I applaud the witnesses who called police immediately and provided timely information to us. I am extremely proud of the brave VPD officers who responded very fast to tend to the victims, to gather evidence, to search for and ultimately arrest the suspect and stop this imminent public safety threat. More than 90 officers were involved in this investigation so far today, and dozens of police officers and civilian professionals will continue in this investigation in the coming days and weeks. Officers from our patrol, community safety officers, emergency response team, K9, multiple drones from VPD, our operational command center, our duty officer, homicide detectives, robbery assault detectives, forensic specialists, victim services unit, and other specialized VPD units all pulled together and are currently working on this case. Homicide investigators from our major crime section will be preparing a report to Crown Counsel and recommending serious criminal charges against the suspect. Because he has not been charged yet, I'm unable to tell you his name at this point in time. What I can tell you is that this appears to be a very troubled man who has a lengthy history of mental health related incidents, which have resulted in more than 60 documented contacts with police throughout Metro Vancouver. He has a prior conviction for assault causing bodily harm, and at the time of his arrest, he was on probation out of White Rock for an assault that occurred in 2023. We have not yet confirmed whether there is a motive for today's attacks or what that motive is, and we are investigating the possibility that mental health was a contributing factor. I know that many people in our city and beyond are troubled by what has happened today. Crimes like these, seemingly random and unprovoked, cause everyone to fear for their safety and the safety of their loved ones, and rightfully so. Let me assure you that incidents like these, while high profile, are deeply disturbing. They are rare. We have seen other cases, though, in Vancouver, where people have come into Vancouver from the suburbs, from other cities in the surrounding area, and committed acts of extreme violence in our city. We do live in a safe city, and I just want to mention that the great support we have had from Mayor Ken Sim and his city council, we have taken significant steps to make it safer. And I just want to give some context on that, because I'm sure this will come up in the Q&A, but I just want to give some context on it preemptively. We've hired more than 175 new police officers since October of 2022, allowing us to increase visible police presence in problem neighborhoods and bolster our investigative capabilities. We've instituted Metro teams, which are rapid response teams able to respond anywhere in the city between districts much more quickly. We've put targeted resources on high-risk offenders, repeat violent offenders, chronic offenders, using resources from patrol, major crime, our chronic offender unit, and other specialized units, and have had some very significant success with that through projects such as Agility and Reclaim, and also engaging the BIAs and different community policing initiatives, as well as our significant mental health partnerships that we have with Vancouver Coastal Health, which have all been bolstered over the past year and a half. Total crime in Vancouver is down 7.4%. Violent crime in Vancouver is down 7%. Property crime in Vancouver is down 10.3%. Unprovoked stranger assaults are almost half what they used to be. Serious assaults, being assaults causing bodily harm, assaults with a weapon, aggravated assaults, are down 17.8%. So just to give you some context on where we stand with the most recent crime numbers. I'm now going to turn the podium over to Mayor Ken Sim, who will provide some comments, and then we'll be happy to take some questions. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here today on short notice. Today, a tragic and deeply unsettling incident occurred, a random stranger attack. The attack, as the chief mentioned, claimed the life of one innocent individual and life-altering injuries to another individual. And so to the loved ones, the families, the friends of the victims, on behalf of City Council, the City of Vancouver, Vancouverites, two of our councillors that are here, Mike Clausen and Councillor Peter Meisner, we want to send our thoughts and our condolences to all of you during this incredibly difficult time. And as the chief alluded to, we have a lot of resources. So if you feel that you need any assistance from VPD or the mayor's office or the City of Vancouver, please reach out. Now, to the people of Vancouver, I understand that this incident is causing a great deal of anxiety and concern. These feelings are normal. It's deeply disturbing to think that something like this can happen in our community. And every single person who lives, visits, or simply just wants to enjoy the beauty of Vancouver deserves to feel safe and reassured that the city is working hard to protect them. And I do want to acknowledge and thank the VPD and the medical first responders for their incredibly swift response. I also want to commend the VPD for apprehending the perpetrator as quickly as they did. Their swift actions, make no mistake about it, prevented further harm from happening. And our administration views public safety as a major priority, and that's why we've committed to fully funding the VPD, and that's why we will back our emergency services to make sure that they have the tools they need to keep our community safe. But I want to get raw and real here for a sec, because personally I'm sick and I'm tired of hopping up here and having these conversations. It's not the first time. And I know Vancouverites are sick and tired of hearing us talk about this as well. And don't take this the wrong way, because our first responders were absolutely amazing in what they did. And I'm sure Vancouverites are sick of hearing how quickly that we reacted to a violent crime and how additional harm was prevented because of the quick actions of our amazing people. We're thankful for that, but you know what? I think we would rather have a situation where we're not put in the situation in the first place, where these violent acts don't happen, because we're trading, we're pivoting, we're actually solving the root causes of these problems. And so I can tell you, every time we come, we're on the stage, and we talk about how we react. It's of zero comfort to the victims and their families and their friends. Anyways, it's incredibly troubling, and I don't just say that as a mayor of Vancouver. I say that as a resident of Vancouver and just a person in the community. We're all in this together, and so I want to be very clear here. Vancouver is, and for that matter, every single other municipality and city in this country, be it Toronto or Montreal, Kamloops, Nanaimo, White Rock, we can't solve these issues alone. First of all, we do not have the jurisdiction to address the root causes of these issues. And we face gaps in our public safety approach that require action and funding beyond the municipal level. And so we need the province and the federal government to address these gaps, especially when it comes to mental health, especially when it comes to the mental health crisis that basically every single town and city in this country is facing. Now, we do appreciate the province has already demonstrated their willingness to adjust policy that isn't working. And we've seen the changes in how they work firsthand, as it related to their pivot on decriminalization, and we want to thank them for that. However, more work needs to be done, especially by the federal government when it comes to tackling violence and the mental health crisis. So I just want to be really clear here. We have a choice. If we don't pivot, expect to see more press conferences like this. Period, full stop. We're pretty much doing everything we can do as a municipality, and so are all the other municipalities out there. It's not in our wheelhouse to deal with most of the root causes that, have us stand up here today. And so let's just call it what it is. And that's not coming from a politician. That's coming from a concerned resident. That's coming from a person in this community. I'm like every single other person in this country that feels this way. And so let's not make this political. Let's pivot. Forget about what's happened in the past. It doesn't matter. Let's look to meaningful solutions. Let's get to the root cause of these challenges, and let's pave a path forward, one that actually works. And so again, our condolences go out to the victims, the families, the friends, everyone that's been affected, all the people that have been jarred by this incredibly disturbing event. And I know this isn't any consolation, very far from it, but at the City of Vancouver, we will continue to make the investments and work towards making this place a way safer place and having the difficult conversations that need to be had so we can make this place a better place. Thank you.
Okay, I will moderate a Q&A here. Daryl?
This one is for Chief Palmer. You were talking about trying to identify the victim. There is a particular gentleman who sleeps at the Queenie Plaza because he is houseless. Do you know any of the circumstances that put him in that place that early in the morning by any chance?
When you're referring to put him, are you talking about the suspect that we arrested?
No, I'm talking about the victim because he was killed at a spot where I'm just speculating here, but there is a particular houseless gentleman who sleeps there quite frequently. I walk by him every day.
I'm not going to deal in speculation. I'm just going to deal in facts. And we don't know the identity of the victim yet in the homicide. We believe he's about 70 years old. We're trying to determine his identity, and we will be notifying his next of kin. I don't know who this person is yet at this time.
None of his circumstances, I mean.
No, I don't even know his name.
Chris?
With the first incident, did the attack actually happen at the steps of the church, do you know? And because there's blood around there, and was this victim either leaving church or heading to the church, do you know?
I don't have that level of detail. I know that it was at Cathedral Park, which is basically right across the street from the church you're talking about. So I don't know if it was dynamic and moving in that direction, but what I know is that our call was to Cathedral Park, and that's where we found the first victim.
I'm just going to ask, was his hand recovered? Do you know?
Yes.
Was there an attempt made to try and reattach it to him?
Well, that will be the hospital that would do that, but this gentleman was taken to hospital with his hand, and as far as how that's playing out, I don't know what the doctors have been able to do with that.
Michael?
Chief Palmer, so you're saying there's nothing to indicate that either of these two victims were or are unhoused?
I have no information on that whatsoever.
Okay, and just quickly, did police ever locate a weapon?
I can't discuss that at this point in time. Charges haven't been laid. That's obviously going to be an important part of the investigation, and that will come out at a later time.
I assume obviously that the man that has passed away was attacked with a knife. What can you, it isn't exactly clear in the press release. Can you confirm that? And also, what were his fatal injuries?
The person that passed away, I cannot confirm that it was a knife, and I can't confirm what his fatal injuries were. That's part of the investigation, and our homicide detectives are still working on that.
Okay. And can you describe what the scenes were like to turn up to this morning?
I can't from firsthand knowledge because I wasn't there, but my understanding is that they were horrific, especially when you're going to a scene. Like, I've been a police officer a long time, as have other people in the room, and I've seen lots of things, people shot, stabbed, murdered, and things like that over the years. But having a severed piece of your body is a very significant injury and would be terrible to see, horrifying.
Alana, then Mike.
Do you have any details about what happened before any of this? Was there talking, any interaction, or can you share anything about that?
This is still a really fresh incident. It happened early this morning. We're still just hours away from it even just occurring. So that will all be part of the investigation. We're pulling CCTV video. We're speaking with witnesses, talking with 911 callers, people that may have cell phone cameras or dash cameras. So that will take a while to compile all of that. So we will obviously, during the investigation, develop a timeline and get witness statements and paint a picture of what happened, but I don't have enough detail to provide you that right now.
The suspect was on probation. He lived in White Rock. Was he violating any of those orders being in Vancouver?
That's a good question. So yeah, he lives in White Rock, probation in White Rock. My understanding is that he was not breaching his conditions by being in Vancouver, and that the conditions on the probation order were quite light.
Okay, you have said that Vancouver, after all these stats, including stranger attack data, is safe.
Yes.
And the mayor said doesn't want to get political. Obviously, this is immediately being politicized.
Yeah, it will
What do
be.
you say to candidates of all stripes at all levels that are using the public safety in Vancouver? We hear that the city is dying, that it is very unsafe. What do you say to politicians who are making hay out of attacks like these and saying that it is very unsafe on the streets?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. I'm not going to address politicians specifically. My answer is going to be to the people of Vancouver and the surrounding area. So I'm not talking to politicians, but I get your point. And let me just say that there have been a lot of things that we have done. We've had really good success. Vancouver is not dying. Vancouver is not dead. Vancouver is not unsafe. That's all hyperbole, and it's not actually factual. There will be in any big city in Canada or North America, there will be shootings and stabbings and acts of violence, and this will not be the last one, and no city in North America could ever purport to not have any more crime. So there will be more violent crime that happens in a city the size of Vancouver. What I will say is that our crime numbers are way down, and I gave you the numbers. We will still have crimes like this that will disturb the public and are disturbing to me, and I'm sure to you on a personal level, as members of the media. But on the bigger issue there, let me just say that there are certain people, most people suffering from mental health issues in our community will never have any contact with the police. There are many people that we have compassion for that have mental health issues that we want to see get help and get on a better path. But there are also people with mental health issues who are extremely dangerous that we need to be afraid of and we need to have institutionalized. And this person, in my estimation, is going to fall into that category. And as far as things that can be done, there's many things, and I talked about a lot of them that we've done with from a police perspective. But this is another person, as I mentioned, coming into the city, perpetrating extreme acts of violence in our city. And we deal with the front end of it very well, arresting the person, protecting people from any future harm. And but I think that we have to realize that there's too many unwell people walking around on our streets. And there's a lot of people suffering from mental health, addiction issues, people that have severe criminal backgrounds or a combination of two or all three of those, and people that are a danger to society. And what we need is, number one, we got to stop the revolving door of justice, catch and release, whatever you want to call it. You hear all the catchphrases. We need more people to be held in custody for serious crimes. We need charges not to be stayed. What I mean is when we present, multiple charges to Crown Counsel and we see in many cases a lot of charges are stayed. And I'll be quite frank, I know that that's happened in the history of this individual with some serious charges that were stayed that I do have some concerns about, and charges were not pursued. He has a history also of assaulting police and healthcare workers. We also need more mental health supports in community. We need more addiction supports in community. And we need more help dealing with the upstream drivers so that these folks are not coming into contact with police at the tail end of the equation. And it would be great to see troubled individuals, whatever their situation is in life, get those proper supports from other levels of government and other government and non-government agencies that are not the police that can help them get on a good path in life so somebody does not decompensate to the point where they're running around downtown Vancouver, attacking people, and assaulting people and murdering people.
I know you got to follow up. We're going to go first with Ben and then Susan Lazaruk before we go around the room a second time. Ben, go ahead.
Chief Palmer, you did rattle off quite a few statistics about crime being down, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I missed it. Was there a baseline? Those numbers indicate crime is down since when?
Yeah, those are 2024 numbers year to date. Those are in 2024 compared to last year.
I just wanted to confirm again about the location of the attack where the man had his hand severed.
Yes.
Cathedral Square, is that the patch of like a little park that's north of the church? Because there was no tape around that.
Yes, that's exactly where it is.
Yeah, but there was no tape around that, and the police were never there. They were only on the steps of the church. So what I'm just trying to determine was, did the attack happen on the church steps or the landing in front of the front doors?
So the only clarification I can give you on that is that our call was specifically to Cathedral Square. It's quite possible in a dynamic incident that this person moved around, both the suspect and the victim of the crime. They may have ended up at the church, and if we have crime tape up there, it's probably related. I just haven't been to the crime scene myself, but good chance because they're literally right across a one-way street.
And if there were blood on Cathedral Square, there would have been tape around there, probably.
Yeah, I'm not at the scene. I'm just telling you, like, we're talking literally one side of the street to the other. So when calls come into police, we respond to that location. If it's literally from me to that back window. That's the distance we're talking, like between Cathedral Square and the front of that church.
It's just
So it's 20
it's an
feet.
important detail for us to get
Right.
on the church steps or in a park.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to determine.
I know what you're saying. So our call was to Cathedral Park. When we got there, it may have been at the church, but I'm just giving you the best of my knowledge what I know at this time.
You've talked about mental health. What sort of state was he in when he was taken into custody?
I don't have those details. I know that when officers from our emergency response, so what happened was the citizen called in, and I also just want to take a sec to really thank members of the community when they see violence or suspicious circumstances, because this person at Habitat Island had no idea what had transpired previously. So this person saw suspicious activity, a suspicious person they were concerned about. They called 911, and it turned out to be the person. We had a drone in close proximity. We had our drone hover over that area and actually picked up the suspect right away. They helped guide in members of our emergency response team, followed by patrol officers who took the person into custody. It was not a violent arrest. It was a fairly straightforward arrest, and that's all I can tell you. I don't know anything about their state of mind or what they said or anything like that.
And how soon a charge is expected?
I'm hoping soon. As you can imagine, this is a large file to put together with multiple victims, many people to interview, multiple scenes, because we had the 2 scenes where the incident happened, and then of course the scene where the person was arrested. So there's a lot of things to process here. We have a large number of officers and specialists working on the file. I can't give you an exact timeline, but we're going to work day and night to get charges to Crown Counsel, and then they're the ones with the authority to lay criminal charges.
So maybe not today.
I doubt if it would be today, but we're going to try and get it done as soon as possible.
Just the injury to the head, can you explain anything else about that?
No, I can't. I'm not going to get into any more detail on specifics like that at this time.
Daryl?
You do have a lot of background about the suspect. I know you can't name him.
Yeah.
Did you just put his name into Prime and CPIC and all this stuff came up? Can you tell us anything more about the background that came up when you were able to look into him a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's various databases we used. You mentioned a couple of them. Of course, yeah, we would use those databases to determine a profile on this fellow.
Is there anything that came up that you perhaps didn't mention already?
There's all kinds of stuff that's come up about him that I haven't mentioned. So I'm just giving you sort of a synopsis.
As much as you can.
I can't at this point, because I'm going to give you the general sense of what happened, who this person is. More details will come out, and I know as investigative journalists, once he is named, when charges are laid, you will do your own research, but I'm not going to give you, this date, this time, this location for every 60 files that he was involved with police.
Can you reveal what kind of charges were stayed against him perhaps, just in general?
There were crimes of violence.
Mike?
Was his 2023 assault in White Rock or Surrey or Vancouver? White Rock?
White Rock.
And was he a member of the repeat offender program, the new one that's been stood up?
I'm not aware that he is. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I don't believe he's at least part of the VPD one, but I'm not 100% positive. We'd have to fact check that, but I don't believe he's part of ours because he's not a Vancouver resident.
How many are in the Vancouver division of that program? And how's that going?
I don't know. Deputy Wilson, do you happen to know how many in the Revoy program we have in Vancouver? Just 80? Okay.
That's the tally that you can staff, or is that just fluid depending on the supply of folks who need that oversight?
Those are the highest risk ones that we do an assessment. We work with our detectives, and then we have other resources, obviously, that we tap into through mental health histories and things like that. But people that are the highest risk for the Revoy program.
CCTV, was there any footage being collected from the church steps?
There's CCTV footage being collected from all over. I can't speak to the church specifically, probably because it was right there, but I don't want to speculate on exact locations, but there'll be lots of, that area of the city and the downtown core, there'll be lots of CCTV.
Would that ever be released?
We would not normally release that as part of our investigation. We do in cases, as you know, where the suspect is unidentified and we're trying to identify the person. But in this case, the person's been arrested, so we wouldn't because it will form part of the evidence that will go to Crown.
Okay, Michael, then we'll go around the room one more time.
Chief Palmer, this happened at a very busy place at a very busy time.
Yes.
I'm just trying to wonder, how did the suspect get out of the area and hit so far and then was arrested over an hour, well over an hour later? Just I imagine there was a lot of witnesses. I'm just trying to piece all that together, like how he got out of the downtown core, basically.
Right, so we're trying to piece that together as well. We did have lots of officers responding, but between the first crime scene and the second crime scene, it's about 2 blocks away roughly. So you would have officers going to the first scene, you would have officers going to the second scene. They would be, tending to the victims. Initially is going to be their first priority. Other officers would be getting suspect descriptions, putting it out, calling in resources from other parts of the city. So it's very dynamic, but an individual on foot, can cover a lot of ground, if they're moving fast. So this person obviously did cover quite a bit of ground because it's probably, 2 kilometers where he was arrested from when the incidents happened.
And sorry, just quickly, were there a lot of witnesses? Were there a lot of people that watched?
We've got a lot of witnesses we're interviewing. Yep, I don't know the number, but there's a lot of witnesses, yeah.
We've seen some pictures from the crime scene of a man wearing a blue-green windbreak jeans and some joggers and missing a hand covered in blood. Does that match the description of the man who had his hand severed?
I don't know, because I haven't seen those same pictures you have. Our detectives would obviously, and our investigators would be dealing with the individual, but I can't speak to that.
The guy who reported the suspect acting erratically at beer hour, was
Yeah.
he walking his dog? What was he doing?
Yeah.
Walking his dog?
Yep.
On the island?
Right in that vicinity. I don't know if he was on the island or just on the path right there, but he was in that vicinity.
Good.
Can you confirm there's a video on Twitter of the arrest down at Habitat Island? Are you aware?
There could be, I have no idea. It's possible, I just have no idea.
You haven't seen anything?
No,
You can just,
I haven't.
Just to follow up on that, are you aware of any other significant arrests involving ERT at Habitat Island this morning?
No.
Can you tell us more about the role of a drone pilot in locating the suspect?
Sure. So Vancouver Police, we call it our RPAS, Remotely Piloted Aerial System. We have a very sophisticated RPAS or drone program here in Vancouver. In this incident, we had multiple drones up looking for the suspect. So when we have in-progress calls or we have calls where we're looking for a missing person, a suspect, could be a bank robbery, whatever it is, we will put a drone or multiple drones up into the airspace to help locate suspects or missing people, depending what the circumstances. And they were utilized in this case.
So like, was it aerial footage that found the suspect, or was it the call that brought you to AKA Beer Island?
It was the caller that called 911, and then we had a drone respond there that was actually close by right away and picked up the suspect immediately.
Is that drone program out of the regular VPD budget, or is it funded by the foundation?
You know what? It's out of the VPD regular budget, but like probably 5-6 years ago when we started it, I think our very first drone was founded by the foundation, but that was a long time ago. Since then, it's all been part of our budget.
Okay. Any other follow-up questions?
No
Okay, go ahead.
follow-up, but we learned about the suspect being in custody from a tweet from Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth. I wonder if you could reveal the nature of the conversation the VP had with Mike Farnworth this morning.
We've had no conversation with Mike Farnworth.
How did he find out about the suspect being in custody?
You'd probably have to ask him.
Looks like it's all.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
You've been listening and watching a press conference held by Vancouver Police with VPD Chief Adam Palmer, and you heard earlier from Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim. This was regarding 2 violent incidents this morning in downtown Vancouver. A man in his 50s was attacked with a knife and suffered a severed hand. That man was taken to hospital for emergency treatment and is expected to survive. A second man was attacked, and that man died at the scene. The victim's identity has not been confirmed. Police believe his age to be around 70. And Vancouver Police Chief Adam Palmer said police have arrested a 34-year-old White Rock resident who is now currently at a Vancouver police jail. The suspect is unnamed right now as he has not been charged, but Chief Palmer said he had a lengthy history of mental health incidents with 60 documented contacts with police throughout Metro Vancouver, and prior convictions for assault causing bodily harm, and the suspect was on probation for a 2023 assault in White Rock. We'll continue to follow this story for you. You can find out more on our website anytime, cbc.ca/BC. We'll have this story throughout the afternoon on CBC Radio 1 and tonight at 6 o'clock on CBC Television. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thank you for joining us.